So one of my favorite things to do is to just get on here and answer questions. And so what I'm going to be doing is keeping a list of the questions that I'm getting from you guys in the comments, as well as people who email me and send me direct messages. Now, these are team leaders, some of these are real estate agents, some of them are business owners all over the country, and I want to take some time in these YouTube videos to actually answer some of the most frequently asked questions that I get, because if I'm getting these questions on a recurring basis, chances are there's more of you out there who would benefit from the answers to these as well. So do me a favor, if you have a leadership related question or even a sales related question that you'd like an answer to, drop it in the comments below and I'll make sure to put that top of the list for one of the next Ask Me Anything videos that I do. So let's go ahead and get into it. So somebody just asked me this one: do I ever get off task with my daily time block? So you might be wondering, what is a time block? So time blocking is a way of mapping out your day. And in one of my later sessions, I'll actually go over with you guys how I map out my days on a whiteboard format. A lot of you have heard of like the legal pad format, so I'll share with you guys exactly what that looks like for me. But really, to answer this question, do I ever get off task? The short answer is no, and that's not to say I never have gotten off task, but part of the reason why I don't get off task is because my day is super deliberate as far as when I get to the office every morning. I get in at about 8:30 in the morning, and my first meeting starts at 9 a.m. So from 8:30 to 9, I'm usually doing what we like to call acknowledgements. So any messages that came through, any emails that came through, text messages, anything that needs my attention, I'm not handling it right then, but what I'm doing is acknowledging it. And then my first meeting starts at 9 a.m. and goes all the way until 2 p.m. From 2 to 4:30 or 2 to 5, I'm working on admin or special projects. But I will say that one of the advantages I have with my position is that when I have meetings at a certain time, I don't really have the option not to show up to those meetings, because I have a client on the other end who's paying me money for me to show up to those meetings. So I don't necessarily get off track and off task, but when some of my clients get off track and off task, what we typically are asking them to do is to take some sort of like 5 or 10 minute mindset break to refocus and tackle the next thing on their list. I think that we all have an average attention span for how long we can work on a given activity, and it depends on how hard that activity is, right? Like when we're in a creative flow, sometimes 2 or 3 hours can go by and we could do this all day, whereas when we're tackling, numbers and spreadsheets or something that's like more mentally labor intensive, you might need to build in different breaks there. And so one of the things I share with my clients all the time is, rather than beating yourself up for falling off track, notice the natural patterns of your attention and notice the natural patterns of your focus and build a schedule that's conducive to that. And so what I mean by that is, if you're doing like really mental heavy lifting, maybe you can only do that for 15-20 minute chunks, and then you need a 10-minute break, and then you do another 15-20 minute chunk, and then you have a 10-minute break. And so it's really important that you know yourself in that and build a schedule that's conducive to your unique attention span for what the tasks are that you're doing. So somebody else asked me the question. She just had a baby. She's a top producing agent out in the Minnesota area, and she asked me, how do you time block with a newborn baby, right? And so for those of you who know or don't know, I've got a 3-year-old and a 1.5-year-old at home. So I've gone through 2 postpartum periods, 2 newborn stages, 2 sleepless night stages, and any other parents out there, you guys can probably relate to this. So what I shared with this individual is that building your day in a schedule format and expecting to be able to plug through that schedule format with a newborn at home is going to set yourself up for failure. And the reason I don't like that is because you can't start every single day with this mindset that if you don't hit this time block, you're going to lose the day. Because what's going to happen at the end of the day is, not only are you going to be sleep deprived, you're going to feel like you didn't give enough of yourself to this newborn, you didn't give enough of yourself to your schedule, and ultimately it's going to leave you feeling like you got nothing done in the day. And so when I was postpartum with both of my girls, I had to shift the way that I was tackling things. And what I ultimately shifted to is, instead of a time block format, I actually could only have 3 main priorities every single day that I could tackle. Now, I had free reign to get them done. I could get them done at 4:30 in the morning. I could get them done at 10 o'clock at night. I could get them done during a 3-hour nap, right? But for those of you who have young kids or have had young kids, you know that for a while, your schedule is going to be all over the place. And so it's important that you set your expectations accordingly when you do have a newborn baby or young kids in general, so that you're not necessarily following a time block to a T. But what you're doing is saying, hey, I've got 3 really important things that I need to do today. And if I do these things, my business is moving forward. And then give yourself the freedom and the flexibility to get those done in the pockets of your day that make themselves available to you. So I had an agent ask me this question a couple weeks ago. So he was having a one-on-one conversation with Taylor Kerrigan, actually, and he's on track for about 70 transactions this year, and his goal is 100. And so Taylor flagged me into the office and she said, hey, Kate, for an agent who is routinely doing 70 deals and wants to go to 100, what would you tell them to do? What I want to share here, though, is if you're not in real estate sales, you can use this example for any volume selling game. So it doesn't matter if you're selling cars, it doesn't matter if you're selling gym memberships, you can use this for any high volume selling product that you're doing. And ultimately what this came up to is we discovered that this particular agent got to the point that he is of 70 deals a year because he was overly accommodating with clients. He was the yes man. He would say yes, they would say jump, he would say how high. And he was really delivering what most of us would consider is an elite level of customer service. Now, if we looked underneath the hood, his definition of customer service at that point in his growth would be being available, being responsive, working late hours. If there's a 8 o'clock appointment on a Friday, he's there. And that's usually what it takes to put big numbers up there, especially early on in your career. So I don't at all want to send the message that that type of work ethic isn't important early on. It absolutely is. But at some point or another, you're going to start taking on as much as you can. You're going to start saying yes to everything you can to the point where you're going to be maxed out, meaning you're as time blocked as you can be, you're as disciplined as you can be, and you can't figure out how to fit more clients into what you're already doing. And so the advice that I gave him are 2 things. Number 1, find anything and everything on your schedule that is not income producing activity. So for him, what this looked like, his income producing activities are prospecting to set appointments, going on appointments, and negotiating contracts. Really, everything else, whether he wants to delegate it or not, is technically a task that could be delegated. And so I shared with him to go through his daily tasks and ask himself, which of these tasks are truly the tasks that he is irreplaceable at doing? Meaning, meeting with buyers and sellers, getting a contract signed, negotiating a contract, right? Like, that would be the hardest thing to train somebody else to do. Not impossible, but one of the hardest things. And so I challenged him to take the rest of the things on that list and find somebody in our organization who can take those off his plate to make more room for generating future clients, right? Now, there's other areas of leverage within our business. We have showing agent models, transaction coordinators. Not going to get into all that today, but really I had to get him looking at his time like he really only had 3 tasks in a given day that were income producing, and the rest of his calendar was full of income servicing tasks. And I had to get him to look at that and find a way to get the income servicing off his books so he could make more room for income producing. Now, there's another quality or characteristic that we had to go over with him, because the agent who does 50 to 70 deals a year is different than the agent who does 100 to 200 deals a year. And it's not system based, and it's not even coaching based. It's character based, and it's how they define customer service. And so for this particular agent, my advice to him was to learn how to say no more and say no often. He laughed at this. He's like, okay, well, what do you mean? I've built my business saying yes to people. And I had to explain to him that while he was saying yes to everything his clients were asking of him at the drop of a hat, he was saying no to the chance to building his business bigger. For some of you out there, you might be thinking, well, Kate, are you telling me to just drop the ball with customer service as soon as I get busy? And the answer is no, I'm not telling you to drop customer service. What I'm asking you to do is redefine what good customer service looks like for you when your business is at 100 transactions. It is possible to service a large amount of clients with an exceptional level of customer service, but it's not possible to serve a large amount of clients with a high level of customer service doing it the same way you did from 25 deals to 50 deals. And so my homework to him was to pause before responding to a client and start practicing time blocking when he would actually service those clients rather than being available at the drop of a hat. When he can master the skill of saying no, we're able to hold space for building his business and getting from that 70 to 100 transaction threshold. So I had one of my coaching clients ask me today, and now, by the way, we have a really big goal. We have a goal of closing 100 million in total production this year. We are so dang close. We're tracking about 3 million behind, but we're getting there, right? And so I share that with you because this question, the way that she would answer this question would be different whether we were ahead of the goal, on pace, or behind the goal. And we are slightly behind the goal, but just there, right? So she asked me this question around letting somebody go in the organization. Now, to be clear, what we're working on right now is very much an all hands on deck, convert every single deal that we have, get price reductions on every listing we have. And so the idea of letting somebody go on the team is going to feel like a direct minus sign to the total production that we currently have, or we're going to have to make it up somewhere with our production without having that person. Now, my advice to her wasn't to let this person go right away, but the challenge she brought up to me is that he has a negative attitude in the office. You know, she can hear him outside of her office, you know, talking about negative things in the industry. I don't want to say fear mongering, but really like not upholding this positive mindset, this positive standard that she's built her team around. And so she did the right thing first and foremost. She went out there, she kind of addressed it, broke it up, you know, made sure that everybody was back on a positive foot. But she then asked me, like, what do I do with this person, right? Like, do I let this person go knowing that we're gonna lose some production, or do we keep him because he's gonna put a couple deals together between now and the end of the year? Now, actually, procedurally wise, I wanted to make sure I told her that, like, this guy deserves a face-to-face conversation, right? Like, nobody should be surprised if we let them go, right? So there should be a conversation about expectations, remind him that his attitude is contagious, remind him what the expectations are being on the team. Let's assume that we've already had that conversation, and let's assume that nothing changes. Then I said, yes, you're okay to let somebody go from the team, even if they're bringing production to the table, if they are culturally not a good fit. Now, the reason behind this is it takes 3 times the amount of energy to counteract negativity than it does to maintain a positive attitude. And so when we're in a time like now where, you know, entrepreneurs and independent contractors are working their butt off every single day, having somebody negative chirping in your ear could actually be a deficit to how you show up and the goals you're actually able to achieve. And so really my message to her was protect your culture at all costs, even if it means you have to recruit somebody new or make up the production that you lose because of that. The challenging thing here is when we compromise on culture for production, we make a short-term decision that's rooted in scarcity that goes against our longer-term vision. And whether we do it now or whether we do it later, we're ultimately going to end up paying for that. And so nip it in the bud right now, have a conversation. If nothing changes, be prepared to let that person go and do everything you can to protect the culture of what you've built, because that's going to be the difference maker of the teams and the leaders who make it in this market and those who find themselves out of the business. All right, guys. So that's what I'm going to answer today. Make sure that you subscribe to see our next round of questions, and go ahead and leave me a question in the comment section below around leadership, leading others, training people, coaching people, getting the most out of people. Tell me what I can answer for you, and I'll make sure to get to it on one of my next videos. Thank you so much. See you next time.